We are going through an extreme heat wave in the UK right now, which means two things. One, you get to watch me glow and gleam and glisten as I talk through a wall of sweat. And two, you get to hear my TBR, my spooky TBR for the summer. I have a mini tradition where I do some spooky things in the summer. I didn't last year because I was in Malaysia, where it's like summer all the time or none of the time, depending on how you look at it. They have wet and dry seasons, so maybe I could have done, dry spooky season or wet spooky season. That sounds kind of fun, actually. But anyway, I'm back in the summer country, so that means you get a spooky TBR video. Now, I do have some unread horror books on my shelf, which I do want to read, so they're kind of like on my general TBR, but I have to be in a particular mood to want to read horror. I generally don't get along with horror as a reading kind of genre that much, even though I tend to like all other things horror. So this list has like two parts. The first half is like literary books which are horror inflected, and then the second half is manga, basically. Horror manga is different because it's visual, I guess. It's a visual medium. So I enjoy horror manga in the way that I don't really enjoy horror books. But there is one exception to that. As usual, I make the rules only so I can break them. Here is the first book on the list. It is a horror book. It's Audition by Ryu Murakami. This is a reread for me. It's all sealed because it's I bought it in Malaysia, but I read it a long time ago, like when I was a teenager. So I really want to go back to see if I feel the same way I do about this story. It's about a man who is looking for a wife, and so he holds an audition. It's an audition for a TV show, but it's a TV show that doesn't exist. His friend who works in an agency sent out an ad for women with certain specifications, like there's an age range and they have to have certain hobbies and interests, looking for the lead role in this TV drama, which is never going to happen. The whole point of this charade is to get like a bunch of women to send in their resumes so that they can pick one to be his wife. Because surely such an underhanded and deceitful way of finding romance won't have consequences later down the line. Of all the books on the list, this is the one that I'm most keen to read soon because I just rewatched the movie again in cinema. There's this company called Arrow, I think it is, which is doing this sort of restoration project where they're going back through old movies and like kind of changing them so that they can be shown in 4K. And this was the UK premiere of that. So like I got to see it in one of my favorite cinemas and it was a really good vibe. I guess watching that film was like the inauguration of my spooky season. But yeah, I can't wait to read the book so I can compare the two and let you guys know what I think. Next is Selected Tales of Liao Zai by Pu Songling. It's another one I got in Malaysia. It's a collection of ghost stories and fairy tales. It's also like a classic. It's inspired people for centuries, and I want to be one of those people. If we just look at the table of contents to get an idea, we have a story called Lazy Wang, Hong Yu, a fox fairy, The Cricket, which I've already read. It's the only one I've already read, and it's amazing. It's really class. 10 out of 10 wood cricket again. Small Hounds, A Strange Tale of Pigeons, The Dream of Wolves, The Exorcist Marries a Fox. There's one here called The Taoist Priest of Laoshan, and although I haven't read any Pu Songling apart from that one, The Cricket, when I was 19 I heard that he compiled most of these stories while living on Laoshan, this mountain in Qingdao. He just like lived there and got all these stories from all his acquaintances and then like hung out in the mountains, like listening to all the mountain sounds at night to get inspiration and stuff. And I did the same. I went to Laoshan like immediately to try and replicate the experience. So yeah, I can actually say that Pu Songling has inspired me, even though I haven't read hardly any of these stories yet, but it's high time that changed. This summer we can make it happen. Next is The King in Yellow by Robert W. Chambers. Now, I don't really know what this book is. It's a talisman. This book is a talisman. It's an object which brings me comfort. One, because it was a gift from my cousin, so it has sentimental value, but also just because of the nature of the book itself. Like, I don't know really anything about it, but I understand that the story is about a text called The King in Yellow, which is passed from hand to hand. And beyond that, I don't really know. Is it cursed? Maybe it's about a cursed text. I think weird stuff happens to people who read The King in Yellow. And that's just clever, isn't it? Like having the title of your book be the thing that you're talking about, right? We like those metafictional shenanigans, don't we? Just looking at the table of contents now, I see that the last section is just called Detailed Historical Context. And it just goes through stuff from the 1800s, like random movements. We have American Romanticism, Parnassianism, the Gothic novel, German idealism, social Darwinism, the Industrial Revolution, US expansion, Napoleonic Wars, Opium Wars, abolitionism and the end of slavery, women's suffrage movement. Could there be a better ad for this book? I have no idea, how it connects the mysterious, maybe horror, maybe just kind of weird and eerie story of the King in Yellow to all of those different things, or maybe they're just somehow going on in the background, but I obviously really want to find out. How do all those different things make up the context for this story or a set of stories maybe? Does the King in Yellow get passed around the Marxist movement? Does it kickstart the Industrial Revolution? Does it inspire the women's suffrage movement? Like, I have no idea what role the mysterious text is meant to play in all of those, or if those are just kind of a backdrop to what's going on. More likely the latter, but you know, a guy can dream. Then we have Medea. Hello, this is Editing Seb butting in here because I realized that I got so caught up in explaining why I'm rereading Medea that I didn't explain why it belongs on a list of spooky books. So the most obvious reason is the gore, I suppose. Like, it's pretty gruesome, and there's a lot of descriptions of violence that Euripides could easily have left out, but chooses to, you know, include in great detail. But more than that, I would say it's the build up to this violence, right? Like, we know from the beginning that this kind of thing is coming. And you know, there's this feeling of dread as we get closer and closer to it. And the fact that this is kind of a psychological element, you know, the fact that it's Medea who's going to commit these horrible things, and she's doubting herself, that feeling of doubt and anxiety and dread, and the sort of the buildup of it towards violence. That is what I think makes it more horror inflected than the actual violence itself. And I know, I just made a video about Medea saying that it's objectively 4 stars, and I've made up my mind on it. But then I saw that my sister has this edition which has been translated by Philip Vellicott. And Philip Vellicott is like my favorite of the Euripides translators that I've read. The first one and my favorite one that I've read. It's often that way. I think the first translator that you read of a writer that you really like is the one that cements in your mind as the best voice, or the best conduit for that writer's voice. But anyway, it made me think that even though I went on at length about how Medea is objectively a 4-star play, if it's translated by Philip Vellicott, what if I have to eat my words? What if, you know, could it be a 5-star? I doubt it, but it could be maybe a higher 4-star. Anyway, I'm just so curious. I'm just so curious about what that translator would do with this play and how much it would change in my estimation. I kind of feel like I have to read it now. Next, we have Northanger Abbey. This is very much the adjacent side of horror adjacent. But yeah, Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. It's very short, isn't it? It's her first novel. It's a gothic parody, and that's all I know about it. And that's all I need to know and all I want to know about it. I know they all say you should start with Pride and Prejudice, but honestly, like a short, sweet gothic parody sounds perfect to me. So I really am curious and like quite excited to get to this one. Then we have Dante's Inferno, and just take a moment to appreciate this beautiful cover, right? The trees and the upside down trees, the shiny title. This is a hardback. This is my father's book. I imagine he just got it to support his countryman, Sean O'Brien, when he translated this book. But I am very excited to get into this. Look at these maps of hell. Oh my God. I don't know much about Dante at all, but I've read like different beginnings, like translated beginnings of the Inferno, and this one looks so good to me. The way that he changes the terza rima, which is the special form that Dante uses, like little sets of 3 into the English, just seems like really readable, and the language is so lush and pleasant, and like I compared it to a few other ones, and this one sounds really good to me. Of all the books here though, this is the one I'm least likely to get to, because there are 2 other epics that I need to read really as a matter of urgency. So even though it has the right spooky vibes, I don't really think Inferno is going to manage to slip in front of them, and there's only so much epic poetry a boy can read at the same time. But who knows? I sometimes just, you know, flights of fancy take me. I might just suddenly get pulled into the Inferno before we get to autumn. Maybe if we get another heat wave like this, you know, because an Inferno is an appropriate way to describe the situation. Next up is manga, and this is one that I just happened to see in my library, and so I grabbed it because I've actually wanted to read this for a long time. Cat-Eyed Boy by Kazuo Umezu. I've already started reading it, as you can see, and it's about this, well, it kind of just tells ghost stories. It seems, or like kind of weird stories with monsters and things like that for children, written in the 60s. And the kind of the gimmick, or the format basically, is that there's this character, the Cat-Eyed Boy, who is a kind of yokai, some sort of, you know, spirity goblin boy who's just like a kind of a naughty boy. He's basically the spectator to the events of any given story. At least that's what I've gathered from what I've read so far. And it's interesting because obviously in ghost stories, there's like the humans and then there's the monsters or ghosts that are haunting the humans or cursing them or chasing them or whatever. So there's like two clearly defined sides, but then our spectator is part human and part monster. We'll just take a moment to let the match of the day ice cream truck drive by. So the cat eye boy seems to be kind of neutral, like neither in the ghost camp nor in the human camp. Like he doesn't side automatically with either the humans or the ghosts. And that kind of inserts us into the story in a very interesting liminal space, which is appropriate for scary stories. But so far the stories themselves haven't wowed me. Like I said, I'm only at the very beginning, but I feel like I'm enjoying these more for their historical value than for the stories themselves, because Kazuo Umezu is the kind of like father of Japanese horror manga. But maybe I'll get more into the stories as we go through the volumes. We'll see. Now this next one has its own IRL spooky story attached to it. I got it in Japan last year. It's a collection of Junji Ito manga, and it's called like Alleys. I got it because it contains Town with No Roads, which is an important manga for me, and it's also very beautiful, and I just wanted to have it in print form so that I could take it off my shelf and look at the pictures or show them to people whenever I wanted to. So I was very happy to finally get that, but I wasn't planning to try and read through all the other manga in it anytime soon, especially because they're in Japanese, until at Christmas my sister's boyfriend gave me this, the English translated version of Ali. So now I have two versions of the same book. How creepy is that, right? I didn't tell him even that I liked this manga artist. It is a very famous manga artist, right? But like, I definitely didn't tell him that I was planning to get this book or anything like that. So now I actually could read the Japanese one with the English one alongside to help me when I get stuck. All thanks to the ghostly spirits of Christmas and Jacek Spernak. Thank you, Jacek. Finally, we have Village of the Siren, another manga by Junji Ito. Also like Town Without Roads from The Last Connection. This is something which is very dear to my heart. I'm not a collector by any means of anything, but I think around the time I bought this and a few others, I realized that if I ever were to become a collector, then it would be for Japanese horror manga of the 1990s. This is one of the first editions of this manga in print. I think it's the only one which has the actual story that I'm interested in on the cover. The original publication was actually from a girl's teen magazine from the early 90s, and it's very hard to get your hands on magazines from that period of this type, but I would if I could. This is old, right? This is you can see how yellowy the pages are, and it's secondhand, so even though it's sealed, I guess it's only sealed by the person who posted it to me. But still, the sealed kind of nature of this book just makes it feel more special and kind of like talismanic, like some of these are for me. So I don't know if I want to break that seal. Do you know what I mean? Is this the summer? I always wonder, is this going to be the summer when I break the seal on this manga and actually read it again? But it's possible. Who knows? Who knows? Anything could happen. That is all for now. Let me know what you think. If you got any recommendations for the summer, especially if they're spooky inflected, then please let me know down in the comments. Or if you want to chat about anything, let's just chat about it down there. And thank you for watching. I'll catch you in my next video. Bye. Hopefully next time I won't be so glowing.